Yeah.
Podcast.
So, I was tripping out on the Colonial pipeline thing, held for ransom, cyber attack, gas prices soar, everybody's freaking out, they're hoarding gas, and, they only got premium or all this other stuff. And they came out and they're like, oh, we're not going to pay it. They paid it. And it just kind of shows exactly how important that was to them. But shame on them for A, not having it secure enough, for B, for paying it, because it will now create more of these ransoms. I worked with a company before that had something similar, and they said, no, we're not going to pay it, and they redid everything and dealt with the consequences. With the pipelines, I know it's different. It's probably like some physical, oil in the pipeline or whatever, or gas or whatever. I don't even know what they do, but something of that nature, oil or gas, some sort of resource in a pipeline, and probably access with the computer to shift it and push it and get it back and forth or whatever. So maybe a little bit different than like a software. Like what I was talking about was a CRM, and they basically said, no, we're not going to pay it, and then they just rebuilt around that and would not give in to the criminals. And I think these guys probably needed to stand up. I know it was going to create a giant problem, but it's just going to happen more and more. And the cyber criminals are relentless. They're insane, dude. They take you by the nuts, and they don't let go. And they do it to they'll do it to big corporations, they'll do it to the little guy with his bank account, they'll do it to nobody, they'll do it to somebody, they'll do it to your favorite artist or podcast or whatever. So we do have to be careful, and I think the only way to really fight it is just not give in. But they ended up paying him $5 million, and I think that was a bad idea. Also, I was reading that they said that by asking for $5 million, they undervalued it, and so it was probably just easier to give up the money than to not fight it, but they could have asked for way more and they probably would have got it. So, that being said, we need to stop the cyber attacks. It's only going to get worse. Watching freaking Israel attack Gaza Strip, and it is insane, dude. Like, it's so bad. And, they're shooting rockets and missiles, and they're just in war, and they've been at war or against each other in quarrels for thousands of years, and it's not stopping. I am kind of just happy, I guess, if there's a word that could be happy, or content that we're, as the United States, not involved with it over there, because I think we have a tendency to go off and try to get in and involved or whatever, but believe you me, if there was some sort of resource or profit to be made, I'm sure we'd be over there trying to break up the bashing or whatever. But I just feel really bad for the kids. I mean, you see like the buildings destroyed and people burned up, and the kids, and they don't know what's going on, and their parents have always told them, oh, we don't get along with these guys, and it's been like that since they've been throwing rocks at each other, and now they're shooting rockets, and it's just really bad. I hope that they can come to some sort of agreement and not be so angry, or at least so brutal. I mean, you don't have to take lives, there's probably some other stuff to do, but just the carnage in the streets is overwhelming. That being said, watched an interesting movie, Werewolves on Wheels. It's like a biker flick with werewolves and Satanism and stuff. It's pretty old. Super indie, unheard of. It was okay. It's good. It was like filmed in Glamis and stuff. It's kind of interesting. They're like, some bikers roll off into the woods and come to some satanist monks that, basically get their chick possessed, and then she fights her boyfriend, and he turns into a werewolf and starts killing his friend. Like, one of those kind of movies. So, I don't know, something worth checking out just because it's so low budget, so grimy. Also watched by William Grefe, The Hook Generation, which is pretty cool. It's kind of like some drug dealing guys in South Florida in the 60s, and they end up shooting the Cubans because they ask for more money, and then they take some hostages when the Coast Guard comes and tries to stop them, and they kill all the Coast Guards, and then they're taking these people around, and super low budget, super like 60s low budget, like handheld camera, no actor. Actually, there was a couple actors in there that I looked it up on IMDb that have been in other stuff that I didn't realize. I didn't recognize them in that movie. But pretty good for that realm of like crime-ish type movie from the 60s. I really did enjoy it. And I know William Greffey's kind of an animal. Makes some really good stuff. Horror fans love him, right? This wasn't necessarily horror, but it's really good. Also, I didn't realize, and I swore I thought I've seen it, High Fidelity. with John Cusack. I had just assumed I've seen it. I think I've seen just the trailer, but I watched that last night. Loved it. I mean, I think last week I told you I watched that other movie, Frozen Ground, with John Cusack, where he plays like that, serial killer, murderer guy, and he was just really good in that. The movie kind of sucked, but he was just really good, and he's older now, and I mean, like way older than High Fidelity, and he was just so good. And then a week later, I see him in High Fidelity. I'm like, dude, this guy, I'm like a hero now. I love John Cusack. He's so good. But that movie has a ton of really good quotes, just stuff like I was thinking, like, it's about the books you read, the films you watch, and the vinyl you listen to. And I'm really on that wavelength. And ironically, I thought one of the coolest things that I noticed in that movie is because it takes place in the movie. The book, High Fidelity, takes place in England. But the movie takes place in Chicago. And I guess it started recording in 97. It came out in theaters in the 2000, or at the year 2000. But one of my favorite bands, hip-hop bands, is Rubberoom. And in High Fidelity, I mean, Rubberoom's super niche. I mean, there's a lot of rappers that have never even heard of them, a lot of hip-hop fans that haven't heard of them. And they had one really, really solid album that they put together called Architechnology. And in High Fidelity, you see it in the background. And I was blown away because it's like super underground. And that movie in general, they kind of, make fun of hip-hop or rap. It's essentially like they're kind of anti. It's more rock, classic music, older 60s jazz and blues and soul and stuff like that. But they make a comment, or I think Cusack makes a list of, top 5 dream jobs, and one of them was a musician. Any musician besides classical or a rapper. Boy, have things changed with the way people view rap and hip-hop and stuff. But I thought that was ironic because there's this sacred album in the background in this movie that you would never think that album is ever in a movie. Just the album, not the music's not playing or anything, but the cover of the album is in the background. And I was just blown away because it is super underground. So I am now the new biggest John Cusack fan ever. I mean, I like him in Grosse Point Blank and all that, but I didn't realize I hadn't seen High Fidelity, and I love vinyl, so it's just so funny. I finished a book called Poetry and the Fate of the Senses, and I found it on some list for like aspiring poets or how to better improve your poetry writing. And it took me about 2.5 weeks to read. Tough read. The reason being small print, and it's more like learning than anything, but I want to say I got something from it. I don't know what I got from it yet. I actually haven't tried to write anything since reading it, but it breaks down, meter and rhyme schemes and where people are at with their thought process and stuff. So anybody looking to improve poetry or get a grasp of previous poets throughout history, I would recommend it. Also, I heard about this crazy story. I guess there's a pitcher on the college team in South Dakota that has one arm, right? No big deal. One arm pitcher kind of reminds me when I was a kid in Anaheim, Jim Abbott was a big deal, and he had one hand. But this pitcher's got one arm, whatever. And somebody broke into his car, into his truck, I guess, and stole his backpack. And in his backpack was his prosthetic arm. So they stole his arm. So he started like a GoFundMe or whatever. And raised enough money, and he got his arm, and I love hearing stories like that where people come together. I kind of felt bad, like geez, dude, like a thief grabbed something, and it's the dude's freaking arm. I guess they found the arm at the recycler. It was too damaged, they can't use it, but the local doctors there got him a new one, and the money he raised, he's giving to charity, and I love a happy story. On that, read more books, be in control, stay amazing, podcast, Jebuth.